Welcome Dr. V.K. Saraswat to news portal bharatdefensekavach.com. Tell us something about the futuristic systems for the armed forces and the R&D work which is going on, because unmanned vehicles and remote control vehicles and all these systems, because this will be an area where there will be a lot of requirement from the DRDO. So
yes, this is one area where DRDO is now taking a proactive approach. We are not looking at what is going to be the war scenario in 2030, what is going to be the scenario in say 2050, what technology is going to bring change, or what the impact of technology is going to be on the war-fighting capabilities, war-fighting doctrines. So we have got a big group in DRDO which is concentrating on that, interacting with the armed forces, so that we can select the right technologies for development. We can also identify major systems which will be useful in those years. Few things which have emerged out of this study are that the future weapons will be directed energy weapons. So we are concentrating today on developing high power lasers of different variety and weaponization of these laser systems on board various platforms for ground application as well as airborne application. This is going to be our major thrust area, and already a lot of work is being done there. Second thing is going to be high power microwave systems, and as we call E-bomb. This will be another area which will be very useful in the years to come.
Can you elaborate about it?
E-bomb is a device which is like a normal bomb in external configuration, but instead of being triggered by an explosive, it creates a high power microwave beam. Now this microwave beam has a tendency to travel long distances and can affect, even burn through many times, the electronics of the various systems. For example, suppose there's an aircraft coming towards you and I fire a E-bomb. I can damage the electronics of the aircraft, both the operational electronics and the payload electronics. That means I have practically, instead of causing fire, I have disabled it, and then it will fall down because of the poor control.
And what will be the range of these E-bombs?
These are different ranges depending upon the capacity. They can go up to 2 kilometers to something like 50 kilometers also. So we are working on different power sizes and things like that.
So when are you going to test?
This is in the early stages of development. As I said, these are all futuristic technologies. So once we develop the technologies, we will tell you at the appropriate time, and we can show you a bomb working like that. Right now we are building the components of that bomb, which probably you will not be in a position to identify yourself clearly with that. Third one area is to have what we call as the future warfare will be unmanned warfare. The pictures of this unmanned warfare are already emerging. What has happened in Afghanistan, what has happened in other places where unmanned drones have released missiles or bombs and so on, and unmanned drones, unmanned UAVs are now doing surveillance and things like that. So future warfare is going to be unmanned and remotely controlled. So in that direction we are building large number of UAVs of different varieties. They will be intelligent and smart depending upon the way we want to deploy them. On a scale of 10, today we are somewhere on the smartness level of 3. But we have to reach a smartness level of 6 or 7 if we want them to survive in a very hostile EW environment and totally of their own and perform all the missions. So we are working towards that. Today they are having a direct communication with the mission control center, and many commands we transmit. All this will not be there in the futuristic warfare. They should be completely independent, like a bird flying without a control, and he should be able to go and catch a sting another location. That is the one. Same thing will happen with the ground-based systems. There will be also be unmanned ground-based vehicles. We already have our Daksha, which is presently doing unmanned ground vehicle, which is doing surveillance job, which is also doing detection of mines, which is also doing little bit of imaging and so on. It can climb stairs, it can move on desert area.
It can be weaponized also.
It can be weaponized also. So now we are looking at how to increase the capacity of such unmanned ground vehicles, which can be weaponized, which can do multiple roles. And tomorrow, what we call as the swarm of unmanned vehicles, which will be called robotic soldiers.
Yes. Oh.
They will be there tomorrow to perform the functions of a soldier. A soldier should be able to see, decide, shoot, all that what we would like to put on a soldier as a system will go on the unmanned vehicles.
So does this program also include the combat UAVs like drones?
Yet it does include, when you talk of unmanned UAVs, they will have for surveillance purpose, they will have for delivery purpose, they will have for even passing messages or even interconnecting various communication nodes. So unmanned aerial vehicles will have variety of applications. Whatever today satellites can do for communication, navigation, and today of course we are not using satellites for release of weapons, but maybe a day may come when that will also happen. UAVs will be doing in a small theater of war. Satellite does for a very large area, UAVs will do on small theater of war. Maybe up something like 50 to 100 kilometer area, a swarm of UAVs will be providing all these functions which I am talking of. Same thing will happen in the years to come for underwater unmanned vehicles. So we also have started a work, we already have one underwater unmanned vehicle functioning in DRDO, which is doing function up to a depth of about 15 meters. We want to increase the depth of this underwater unmanned vehicle to as low as 50 meters, 60 meters and so on.
This has operational capability? Or
right now they are being used for surveillance purpose. We are not looking at weaponizing them because we want to use them for surveillance and communication purpose. But yes, tomorrow a time will come when they will also get weaponized. But our emphasis today is on communication, navigation and surveillance mostly, and detection of what is happening all around it. So this is third area which is coming, and fourth area is cyber security.
Yes.
The cyber security is yet another area which is going to be very important in the years to come. We have started a major R&D program on cyber security, by which we should first of all reduce the vulnerabilities of Indian cyber system. What are the vulnerabilities? Our complete hardware which is being used today in the various systems and subsystems which are using for networks, they are imported. Yeah. Now once they are imported, they are likely to get compromised. We want to remove this problem. This can be removed by two ways. You build your own microprocessors, you build your own servers, you build your own switches. We have started a program. Another way is, because it is going to take time, whatever we are importing, we should be able to screen them and find out if there are any problems. We have started a program in that direction also. Our approach on cyber security is to first to make yourself robust, defend yourself. Then we will see if we need to offend also. Right now we are not concentrating on any offensive operation. We are concentrating only on defensive aspect, making our networks robust, making our systems robust, making our own software so that we don't have to depend upon the imported operating systems which could be compromised and so on. The major weakness in this area which we are facing is that India unfortunately even today doesn't have a foundry of its own. Yeah. So we are still dependent on getting our components and microprocessors built abroad. Slowly I think we will get over this problem also. We have been making suggestions at different levels, and I think in the years to come there will be an Indian foundry. Once that happens, I think we will be very, very strong in this area. So cyber security, and finally the next area is going to be the space security. Yes. Because all the space assets with the network centric warfare are going to be vulnerable, so we have to create an area of space defense. And while we may not be in a position to demonstrate any offensive capabilities, but we should make our space systems protected. And as you said, the launch of microsatellites, as satellites in case our space assets are denied, will be the first step to provide that support in the theater of war, and many other systems which can be.
So how can you protect your satellites from an aggressor's missile? How can you protect?
There are many ways of doing this. When you launch a satellite, you should carry basic sensors which should be able to detect what is coming towards them. If it's a kinetic energy weapon which is coming towards them, then you should be able to sense it, and you should be smart enough to take a maneuver and evade it. Oh. That is one possibility. Or what the theory says today. Right now nobody has implemented, nor it is going to be implemented in near future. What the theory says is that you should be able to carry a worm satellite on yourself.
Okay.
And as soon as you detect that something is coming towards you, you release that satellite.
Like a decoy.
Like a decoy. And that fellow will go and...
Oh.
So there are many ways by which the satellite defense can be done. But it's an emerging science. The way it is going to take shape, time only will tell. But we should be ready. We should get ready with technologies which will make us also comparable with the advanced world in this area.
Thank you so much for talking to us, and wish you all the best.
Thank
for
you
your
so much. Thank you.
future ventures.
Nice talking to you.
Thank you. Nice talking.